As I see it, the main problem that we in Canada and those of you in the US are facing isn't ideological, it's procedural. The hot-button issues, like abortion and flag burning and school prayer, aren't really that important to most people's daily lives when it comes right down to it. So what do I mean when I say our problems are procedural more than ideological? To answer half of that question, I'll say that most people, if they really discussed it, would find that they aren't that far apart on most issues. So if I'm right then, why can't we get together and form a consensus on most political issues? That's the other half of the question, the procedures. By procedures, I mean the way we as a society think about issues, the way we discuss them, and the way we come to decisions on them. I don't want to say that our current procedures are flawed, because saying that something is flawed without being more specific is easy. So I'll say that our current procedures are limited, and I'll be more precise and say that they have locked us into a local maximum. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term local maximum, I'll explain it as best I can. This line equals progress. This one equals time. This line represents our society's progress through history, its progress in government, its progress in economy, in technology, in foreign relations, in everything. What do I mean by progress? This point down here, let's say, is the year 1000. Government is made up of brutal tyrants. Nations are openly aggressive towards each other. There are no real treaties ensuring civil conduct between neighbors. Men don't have the vote, women don't have the vote, people are poor, slavery is legal, there are no government services like schools, hospitals, or public sanitation. Before I offend a whole bunch of historians and non-Westerners, I'll clarify and say that I'm talking about Great Britain in 1000 AD. So then if this is 1000, here we are in 2007. We have national leaders who are elected, kind of. Most developed nations have stopped fighting with each other. We have the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the Geneva Convention. Men and women of all colors, creeds, and sexual preferences can vote. Few people are hungry. Slavery's been officially abolished. And the government provides schools, hospitals, and public sanitation. Again, I'm only talking about developed Western nations. So you could argue that things are better now than they've ever been. Then what about way up here on the progress chart? At that point, our nation's leaders would be fairly elected and represent the will and the best interests of the people. And those developed nations would refrain not only from fighting each other, but they wouldn't invade or attack less developed nations. Heck, there'd be no war at all. For that matter, we wouldn't need to distinguish between developed and undeveloped nations, because they would all be developed. The UN Declaration wouldn't just be signed, but it would be enacted worldwide, and the Geneva Convention would be universally upheld. All votes are counted, and all votes matter. No one is hungry anywhere, and no one is enslaved. And the hospitals and schools and public sanitation are of such high quality that everyone can rely on them, and everyone has such confidence that they're getting the best healthcare or education or drinking water that the rich don't feel the need to turn to private schools, private hospitals, and bottled water. So how do we get from here to here? A local maximum is that point where you can't get any better without changing approaches. It's not an actual maximum where things just can't get any better. It's that they can't get any better by doing more of the same. And I think we're in a local maximum now. In fact, I think we've been there for a while. You see, when you get stuck in a local maximum, things get wonky, patterns get distorted, and that's what's happening. I said before that you could argue that things are better now than they ever have been, but I won't argue that. The environment is in the toilet. We have weaker democracies, less peace and security, more weapons, more poverty, more unchecked corruption, and aside from some technological and social advances, I can't see anything that's better in our society than it was on the day I was born. Don't believe me? Individually, our annual income goes up every year, but in terms of buying power, it goes down. That means that when my father was my age, he was paying a mortgage on his own property. He owned a car, and he had essentially no debt. Now here I am. My wife and I are university educated where my dad only had his high school. We rent and struggle to make the payments every month. We own a very small portion of our tiny economy car, and the debt we incurred during university is massive. We can't even think about owning a home for years. Still not convinced? In the 50s, an average guy working a 40-hour week could support a family of 5 without any trouble. Now that same family would need both parents working 40 hours a week. That's 80 hours total. We need to spend twice the labor to get half as much as our grandparents? How's that make sense when worker productivity has gone straight up? I'm going to explain how this has happened in future podcasts, so let's leave the premises accepted for now. We're stuck in a local maximum. Now in mathematics, to get out of a local maximum, you have to go down before you can go up. It's my opinion that by having stayed on this course for so long, We've already started to go down, and I'm terribly afraid of where this downward path will take us before we finally start heading up again. We're running out of oil, and that's going to make things very tough in the near future. I'm talking Dark Ages tough. And it's not just me. There are serious scientists predicting another Dark Age, and I really want to avoid that if we can. I do think we can, because I'm not talking about a mathematical construct. I'm talking about the real world where there are real people walking around who can make decisions. We can decide to get off the path we're on and head in a new direction. That brings me back to the procedural problems I started out with. What exactly has locked us into this local maximum? Or let's ask, what exactly is the path we need to get off of? It's a lot of things, but mostly the problem is that we've lost focus on our destination. The focus of government is supposed to be the welfare of the people. I'm the first to admit that this has rarely, if ever, been the case, but it's become even less so in the last half-century. It's no one person's fault, and it's no one party's fault, and it's not all big business or the lobbies or the media or the super rich controlling everything. I honestly believe that there is no conspiracy that's brought us here. Where we are is the inevitable result of the structures of our decision-making, and the biggest fault in that structure is its piecemeal nature. The end goal, that point way up on the progress chart, has to be the focus of everything the government does, every law, every project, every international agreement. And it should be our goal as people as well. Here's an example. In Canada, we have a Minister for the Environment. I'm a member of the Green Party and have stood as a candidate in a federal election. And I honestly believe that we should not have a Minister for the Environment. Why? Because every minister should be the Minister for the Environment. Every labor decision should take into account the environment, so should every industry decision, and natural resources, and economy, and trade, and foreign relations. Every decision that the government makes should have keeping the environment clean and healthy as its goal, because that dot way up there needs a clean environment. And I'm not just talking about the environment. The environment is just one part of that goal way up there. Ensuring and improving the public welfare is the government's job. In fact, it's the only job that the government has. All its other priorities are meant to serve that one goal. The procedural problem is that we've come to treat a number of issues as goals in themselves, without looking at the bigger picture. There are lots of examples, but I'm going to mention the economy because it's the one that's done the most harm. Our politicians have convinced themselves that a quote-unquote strong economy is important, and they've convinced themselves that certain measures of the economy, like the stock market, corporate productivity, and the GDP, are the rulers they are supposed to use to measure their success or failure in respect to the economy. The only gauges they should be paying attention to are ones that indicate the welfare and happiness of the people, and that goes for all areas of public policy. To get to that high point on the graph, we can't just change one thing, we have to change everything. We have to make that goal our focus. You can call that goal Utopia if you want, and I know we'll never get there, but that is no reason not to try. I'm not necessarily talking about big changes, but in some cases I am. What we all need to remember is that we don't have to be scared of change. Any decision we make won't mean the end of the world. That's one of the great things technology has done. We have the capability to clothe and feed and house everyone on the planet, and nothing we do can change that. So for the first time in history, we as a society have the economic freedom to experiment. I'm talking about systematic changes, and I can't do that in 10 minutes, so I'm going to outline what I think needs to change and how each part of that change fits together in other podcasts. I'm not claiming to be anything except a person with opinions, and I'm not saying that my ideas are perfect, but I think they're better than what we have, and I want to start a debate. Post comments, post video responses. All I ask of you is to seriously think about what I'm saying and not just take a position on it. Don't shoot me down, make suggestions. I put my name on the things I do. My name is Colin Jones, and I want things to get better.